Welcome.
Do you know who I am?
Who the hell are you?
Who are those guys?
And then there's the other guys.
We're the other guys. We're the guys nobody ever bets on.
Just what is it that you want to do?
We want to get loaded, and we want to have a good time.
Okay, let's party.
Let me talk to you.
I'm building an alliance.
Will you join us?
It's showtime.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are tonight's entertainment.
If you're not here, you missing out, because this show...
Ladies and gentlemen.
Welcome. All right, listen up.
And now, the moment you've all been waiting for.
Now here's the other Alliance guys, Tim, Jeremy, and Dave.
Good afternoon, one and all. Welcome to the Other Alliance Guys podcast. I'm Championship Wrestling from Jeremy, joined by my pal Dave. How are you doing today, Dave?
Doing well. Looks like spring has sprung in some areas. I don't know. You're in the Midwest. You guys still have snow?
No.
Yeah, thank God.
We got nailed over the weekend. So it started Thursday evening, it started Thursday afternoon, Thursday evening, and we got nailed all the way through to Saturday, and we ended up with the most snow that we've had on record. And I think we got over 2 feet.
Wow.
Yeah. And now it's all gone already.
Wow.
Yeah, for the most part. Let's see here. We are shout out real quick to the chat. We got Mr. Willie Bowen in. We all know that Tyrus has a weight problem. He can't wait to eat. Oh, Willie.
Oh, man.
Oh, wow. That one was a good one. And then we've got Sam Retros in the chat and Noob and Co. Good afternoon, everyone. Or good evening. Thank you for joining us. Today we'll be talking about MLW's Once Upon a Time in New York and UWN's last episode from this past Sunday. So we've got quite the subjects to touch on. Backstage, you were saying that Nick Aldis was injured.
Yes, and everybody's like, well, he's not wrestling. I'm assuming it was something while he's. I mean, if you're a former wrestler or even a current wrestler, you work out. Well, he's not wrestling, but I mean, to keep his physique and be ready, he works out. And I believe while working out, he injured himself. He ruptured his bicep tendon and ended up having to go in for surgery. So it looks like he's either in a cast or at least in a sling on his right arm from the picture I saw. So I guess we'll see this. I'm assuming he's not going to be off TV. It'll just be that maybe they'll work it into somebody jumped him or who knows.
They could.
But I mean, they have just a few days, just over what, 12 days or something like that until they actually go in.
Yeah. They could definitely work something out with that and get something figured out with it. And then also Jackie Crockett passed as well.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, that was I was listening to Cornette today and he was talking about it, and he was the life of the party when it came to the Crockett's. He was, as Cornette put it, the black sheep of the family because he had a personality. So.
Wow. But also got some birthdays, NWA style. Jared Fritz, referee, Ref Fit. His birthday was this past week. Also, EC3 and Billy, Mr. Corrigan, celebrated a birthday. So I know we don't. We're veering away from NWA, but I mean, still got to give a shout out here and there if something happens.
Oh yeah.
And, also, Thrillbilly, his GoFundMe is still going. So if you have a chance, just jump online and give if you can, or at least spread the word so others see it. And that's one of those things that it's crazy. Things just change in the snap of a finger, and just start all over again.
It can all be gone in the blink of an eye by no fault of your own. Let's see.
Cool.
I'll be in Philly for Mania weekend. Will you enjoy and be safe?
Make sure to grab a cheesesteak.
Oh yeah.
Go to your, and I believe it's some good stuff. Don't believe the hype with Gino and Pats. They're just I think they're in cahoots with each other to one up each other and just build sales that way by having a battle. I mean, they're literally less than a half block from each other, so it's you can look down the way and see, and I'm like, okay, it's a bunch of hype. Back in the day, it was an actual battle, but they have to be working each other.
Let's see. Matthew Underwood says, rumor is Aldous got injured visiting Smithfield's Bakery in Virginia, famous for making the world record 2,200-pound ham sandwich.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, you win the comment of the day, Matthew Underwood. That was just amazing. A 2,200-pound ham sandwich. Amazing. See, Gino's in let's see. Willie Bowen says Gino's in Philadelphia is the best cheesesteak and sub sandwiches. I've never had either one. I've never had.
I may give them a try if I can, but I've always gone to Tony Luke's whenever I'm at the 2300 club.
Yeah.
The arena, the old ECW. Most of the guys, we just hang out, and then after, some of the wrestlers, and they'll just all pile in a car, and we go get some of Tony Luke's. But an actual Philly cheesesteak in Philly is the best, no matter where you go.
Yeah. So let's see. We're talking about MLW's fight for, or not fight. What am I thinking of? We're talking about MLW's Once Upon a Time in New York. That was a hell of a show, man.
Oh yeah. If you didn't get a chance to watch it, it's free on YouTube. All you have to do is jump on, type in MLW wrestling. If not, it takes you to like I don't know, like some other site, and it was like
yeah, what is it? I remember because that's what I did the first time I looked for it, and I just went MLW, and it took me to something completely. Oh, now it takes you. Okay, MLW Wiffle Ball.
Major League Wiffle Ball. Wow.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I mean, they have adult dodgeball teams. They have adult. I mean, I don't know. I'd like to be like, okay, you want to play some sports? I got some what yard darts. I don't know if you're old enough to remember the yard darts where you toss them up and then you're like, okay, like try to get them in.
We used to just chuck them up real high into the air and stand around in a group, and then the last one to move was not a chicken.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure we were part of that group that got them outlawed.
Wow.
We weren't very smart back then.
But yeah, getting back to MLW, Once Upon a Time in New York. Now, if you followed the show, I've been to many MLW events and tapings, and what they'll do is, if they have a pay-per-view, it may go from 8 to 10 or 8 to 10:30, but they start an hour ahead of time and then tag on maybe 30 to 45 minutes after, and they tape. That's what their fusion tapings used to be. Now I like it because they're not weekly. They're about every 2 weeks there's an event. It's either free on YouTube or BN Sports, or there's an actual pay-per-view, and that's on Triller with the old Fight TV. So this latest one was in New York. It's Once Upon a Time in New York. It was taped before and after Intimidation Games. And this one saw, I believe, 5 or 6 different matches. It kicks off with a recap package of Intimidation Games, and all of that leads up to tonight's event. So Cesar, if you followed back in the day, Lucha Underground, Cesar Duran, he comes out on stage. He's back, bigger than ever. He runs down Selena. He announces he's building a new temple, and they're going to have a pay-per-view in Chicago of Azteca Lucha. And of course, the crowd starts booing because they're in New York. So it's like instant heat right away. But coming up May 11th, he'll run the most spectacular Super Lucha event. And I'm not sure if it's going to be all Lucha, but it's going to be heavy. So if you enjoy Lucha Underground, make sure to catch this if you can. And I'm sure they'll be highlighting this coming up. He makes Selena and says, "Hey, I've got some luchadors. You bring yours. Will determine who has the power here in MLW." Well, he's about to introduce a new woman luchador into his group, and he's wanting them to go after the title that Janai Kai holds, the featherweight title, MLW featherweight. But Zeta comes out. Zeta and Brett Gosling come out. She doesn't care who that Cesar has, that she wants a chance to go after the title. So there's a lot of back and forth. Zeta begins to run down Selena and Cesar. Selena comes out. Well, she doesn't come out. She pops up on the screen and tells them all to be quiet, that she has an announcement. She says that the reason people say blondes are dumb are because of you two. And I'm like, okay, they're just jabber-jawing back and forth. But Selena finally accepts Caesar's challenge, and she says that when they meet in Chicago, that she's the one with him in Chicago, that he's going to be canceled, just like Lucha Underground was back in the day. And this was just a back and forth that tells a story to go on. And in the background, behind Selena, Rocky Romero is pummeling one of Duran's goons, his masked goons. So Duran says it's not over by any means. He leaves. Gosling ends up taking Zeta to ringside, and that kicks off the first match of the evening. Brett Ryan Gosling defeats Love Doug, who comes out, and the crowd loves him. But it's one of these things that this is a 6-person scramble. So Brett Ryan Gosling ends up defeating Love Doug. Ichiban's in there, Marcus Mathers, Dylan, and Cannonball. Now, if you haven't seen Cannonball, just huge 350-plus pound guy, part of the Calling.
Just a cannonball of a man.
Yeah, he's just, he plays his part well, and he's a masked character, so whether he's over or not, it really doesn't matter. He's in the bigger picture, part of the Calling, and he's willing to defend the Calling by any means necessary. Yeah. So it's one of these things that this is a show that it's a battle that Brett, who is now with WTF, Ichiban will be coming after them. So it's one of these things that Brett ends up hitting a roll up on a flipping roll up on Dylan, and that secures the pinfall. Now this is just a scramble 6-person match. I'm not sure if this is for going after the title or not, but it's building a story. So it's one of those things. They then show a video package that announces Timothy Thatcher will be competing at War Chamber. So it's one of these things of Bad Dude Tito, who is now part of Selena's group, ends up defeating Azteca 66. He hits the drill claw to score the pinfall, and I've heard that Bad Dude Tito is quote unquote unofficially signed with MLW. So you'll see him doing New Japan. He'll be doing some championship wrestling in California. Plus, he'll also, depending on when the booking is, he'll be active in being part of Selena's group with MLW. So it's always good to see them expand and just have a wide variety of styles of wrestlers, because they do say styles clash and styles make fights. So there's also another video package hyping up Unagi Sayaka's debut at War Games. She'll be facing Janai Kai for the featherweight championship. So we'll see where that ends up going. AJ Francis, who is with WTF, he's with Mr. Saint Laurent. He ends up defeating Mr. Thomas, the Boumaier Fight Club, who is with Alex Kane. This was a good big man match, and they're not so much fighting for themselves. They're fighting for their groups, and I like the group warfare. And it's one of these things that it's not always 50-50, or it's not always one group winning and everybody else losing. That they're mixing it up, so when they do have fights, it means something.
And so question, who do you think is the weak link in the Boumaier Fight Club that Francis is alluding to?
I'm not really sure. It's one of these things that they have several members. I'm not really sure. I don't see. I mean, Mr. Thomas has been there since the get-go.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's a couple others. I'm not really sure if there is, or they're just pushing quote unquote the narrative that, hey, somebody's going to turn their back on you, just to build up a storyline. So Alex Kane is always looking over his shoulder and unsure of himself.
And so that's great psychology.
Yeah, and I mean that is good psychology. And I mean, AJ Francis, for what he does, as long as he doesn't try to do any through the rope moves or high spots, the guy can wrestle. He can talk.
Yeah.
He's not.
Yeah, I'm not trying to tell you how to do your job, but wrestle like a big man. Don't wrestle like a flyer.
Yep. I mean, make your opponent work up to you.
Yeah.
Even if you're not, if you have 3 or 4 moves and that's all you have, but you can win using them, do it.
Yep.
But don't go outside of your style.
Yeah. Rumor has it that the Big Show had a beautiful moonsault, but no one ever saw it in the ring on TV.
Oh no.
There's no reason for him to.
That's just one of those things of do things that are believable.
Yep.
And it's one of these things that I can now watch some lucha and I'm not disappointed when they pop back up, because that's the style.
Yep.
But they go 90 miles an hour. They're nonstop. They can take a beating and then they just pop back up. So that's just one of those things that enjoy what you enjoy, but sometimes you have to leave your beliefs at the door.
Yeah.
And just enjoy what you watch.
Yeah.
Enjoy it for what it is. It's one of these things that there's things they do in movies that there's no way. I mean, I don't know if you're like Fast and Furious, but I don't know about driving cars into space.
No.
But it's one of those things that if it fits the story, okay, we'll just go with it. Let's see. In this match with AJ Francis, Mr. St. Laurent ends up distracting Mr. Thomas long enough for AJ to hit him with the cash out, gets a pinfall victory. This is another one of these battles that if you end up watching this and you see the end of this event, it was almost every faction was fighting each other.
Yeah.
And this is battle warfare. And I mean, it's good. And it shows that, I mean, like WTF, they have members. And if certain members can't make it to a taping, other members step up.
Yep.
That you may have 10 people in your group, but only 7 are there for the taping. Okay, cool. No harm, no foul. But all these different groups are using group warfare, and especially in War Chamber, it works. And this taping was just one of those things that it's like, okay, this keeps the story going till the next pay-per-view. So next come the ladies. Mr. St. Laurent comes out with Zeta, and Delmi Exo ends up coming out with Cesar. A new partnership is formed. Cesar, Delmi Exo, they shake hands. After the match, it's a new alliance, and they're going against Selena. So it's one of these things that even though they were fighting another faction, always in the back of your head, you have to figure out what's going to happen. And if it's not one group, it's another. So just, it's always good to have somebody by your side and watching your back. So this is a good thing. Plus, adding females into these groups just makes sense.
Yeah.
Because if there's one group that has a female and the others don't, I don't want to see intergender.
No.
And sometimes it works, but have females in all these different groups. So if somebody steps up, you have someone in your group that can step up to go after them. So it makes sense. So after the match, Zeta gets on the microphone. She screams that she didn't lose. Out comes Janai Kai with she just sends her to the ground. It's a single slap, and it's basically the slap heard around the world. She just jacked her, and she just hits the floor. Selena says they won't do it. That Cesar wants to have Kai put the title back on the line against Exo, who is the former champion. It doesn't work for him, so they end up brawling anyway. Security tries to break them up, and they end up taking them to the back. So they're working all these factions against each other. Plus, when a belt gets involved, it becomes even more. So you literally have 3 different factions going after the featherweight title. One is holding the title and defending it, while the other 2 are battling to go after that title. And Dexy wants to reclaim it. Delmi, I mean, she wants to reclaim it, and Zeta is trying to move up the ladder. So it's one of these things that what they're doing in MLW is good for everybody involved. Next comes Matt Riddle. He's the New Japan World TV champion, and he goes against WTF's Davey Boy Smith Jr. Now, this was just a bunch of reversals, roll-ups, a lot of just back and forth. But both these guys can wrestle, and they fit well with each other. Matt Riddle retains the title. Josh Bishop, who is part of WTF, tries to attack Riddle after the match. Riddle ends up laying him out with a flying knee. So it's one of these things that Matt Riddle is by himself. So I don't know if I'd want to see him team up with someone else or just be, quote unquote, the lone wolf, being that he doesn't need to have anybody by his side. That
Right.
He's there, but he's not there all the time. That about every other pay-per-view, he'll be there defending or he'll be there for a taping. But sometimes he's not able to be there, so he tells a story, and it doesn't hurt if he gets a win. It just builds a story of him being the lone wolf going against the World Titan Federation. So I'm looking for probably him and maybe, I don't know, Timothy Thatcher.
Okay.
I mean, who knows? I mean, you could always, I mean, do that where it's actual fighter against fighter, where it's almost a blood sport thing, where they could do blood sport without it being blood sport and just be like, hey, anything goes. MMA, wrestling, catch wrestling, amateur wrestling, whatever, by any means necessary. If he ends up going against them, that's a good thing. But I mean, Josh Bishop, even by being taken down, he's being built up because he's part of that group. And he's a new guy. And I mean, he's the guy that first time I saw him, all I could think of was, oh, Psycho Sid. And he's the young version of Psycho Sid, not as big.
Yeah.
But surrounded by others. Hopefully he'll just pick up a lot of the knowledge by the other wrestlers around him, and he'll improve that way. So let's see. Court Bauer, the CEO of MLW, ends up coming out on stage. He has something special planned, but before he can announce it, Contra unit shows up, and they end up attacking him. So we'll see what happens with that. Selena brings Star Jr., one of her luchadors, out, ends up defeating Magnus, who is part of Cesar's group. Star Jr. hits a double foot stomp on Magnus from the top rope to get the pinfall. It's one of those things that this is a very good match, and they're exchanging wins here and there of their groups.
Yeah.
So they're just it's building friction.
Yep.
It's building friction. So then it also they end up talking about it, talking about the match. They're talking about the what's coming up with the main event. Then they go back to the backstage area, and Cesar's there putting quarters over the eyes of Rocky Romero. He's been laid out. So either he's being written off because a couple weeks ago, Rocky was, I guess, signed to AEW as a liaison.
Yep.
So it's one of these things of they're using wrestlers as they can. But I mean, not all of their wrestlers are just MLW wrestlers. That they wrestle independents, they'll wrestle here or there. And that's a good thing. That the Forbidden Door, being able to wrestle all these different people is a good thing. And we'll talk about the Forbidden Door coming up in the fantasy booking with the Bloodsport coming up in a couple weeks. But the main event, Now, this is a 6-man match. You have your world heavyweight champion, Kojima, also Alex Kane and Akamura. They end up defeating Josh Bishop, Filthy Tom, and Richard Holiday, part of WTF. Now, Kojima ends up hitting Josh Bishop with a Lariato, scores a pinfall victory. This is one of those things, even in a loss, you're building up your stars. That I'm not sure how long Richard Holiday will be there. Filthy Tom goes back and forth. And Filthy Tom skin. Just their styles. But in winning, they're in the ring. WTF ends up attacking them after the match. Then Akira and Jake Chris end up battling Ricky Shane Page and Sami Callihan. They take it outside. They're up on the roof. So you have in the ring, on the roof. Second Gear Crew ends up arriving in the ring. They go against WTF, and it goes off the air.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you have 3 major factions wrestling. You've had Contra there. It's one of these things. They're telling good stories, and this is going back to the times of groups. If you think back in the day, I'm not even sure if it was WWE then. It was WWF. It was, I mean, you had, all your different groups. Your I can't even remember the names of them. La Boiquas.
That sounds right.
I mean, I'd have to look it up, but they're doing battles where they're not making one person stand out.
Yeah.
They're spreading the wealth around, even in a loss. I mean, taking this loss, it fuels the fire. But it's one of these things of, I think Court is doing this well, and I'm not sure what's going to happen. I don't mind Court showing up every once in a while, but why does the owner of the promotion have to be involved?
Yeah.
So it's setting up for somebody to either step up and do the battle for Court, or Court to bring somebody new in. Now, they have, I think it was close to $20 million that was awarded them from a lawsuit against WWE. So they do have some money to play with. And while I see MLW having its mainstays, they're always switching in and out. For the last 2 events, Matt Cardona hasn't been there. He's still part of WTF, but he has other things. So they're pulling people in and using them to their advantage. That if AJ Francis isn't able to make it, if he comes in and does 1, 2, maybe 3 tapings and then gets taken out, okay, cool. Whoever takes him out, their stock rises.
Yeah.
But it's one of these things that MLW is doing it right in my eyes. While I don't enjoy everything that I see, it's one of those things that if you're spoiled, if you enjoy everything you see on any given wrestling organization when you see a show. Because, I mean, to me, that's just unnatural, that you're not going to enjoy everything. Just like if you're eating food, you may like certain things and not like certain things. If you go to a buffet, you stay away from the things you don't like. Well, this, enjoy what you like, and move on. Slowly, I'm starting to embrace the lucha style. I still have to basically take my brain out and set it to the side when I see a lot of these matches. But what these guys do, whether they're doing the lucha, the hardcore, or just basically catch wrestling or MMA style, I'm liking it. And I would say give it a try. Go on YouTube, type in MLW Wrestling. You can watch this. It's just under 2 hours. You can fast forward it, whatever. But watch this event and then click on a couple others. Click on some of their older matches just to see there's different styles. And that's what MLW says they are. Styles and fights. So I don't know. I mean, I'd give it out of 5 stars, probably about 3.75, maybe a 4. It's just one of those things that they're telling stories. This is a free event. This wasn't one of their pay-per-views. Their pay-per-views, I usually give a 4 or 4.5. I'd give it a 3.75 just because there's a lot of gaga in there. There's a lot of yabbering, but they're telling a story, and if it gets me to the next pay-per-view, okay, I'm cool with that. What were your thoughts on it, Jeremy?
Overall, I enjoyed the entire show. There was some gaga in there, but it like you said, there was something for everyone in it. The Matt Riddle match was a lot. I don't want to say a lot better than I thought it was going to be, but it was. He's good. It's a shame that he screwed up the way that he did, because he has everything there to be a top guy.
Yeah.
But again, there was something, like you said, there was something there for everybody. Love Doug got, I think, the biggest pop of the night.
Yep.
That guy is so over. I enjoyed it. I love what they're doing with the stories. They're keeping everything going. They're, even if it's just a little segment, they're touching on stuff and keeping you cognizant of everything that they have going on, because they've got a lot going on.
Oh yeah.
They've got a lot going on. But that's not to say you can't just hop in and, like you said, watch the past couple of episodes. You'll be caught up. You know, you're not going to be able to jump in and just be like, I have no idea what's going on. You know, they're really good about that. So
yeah,
it was.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, it was. I was going to say it was. That was great. I would have paid for that.
Yeah.
You know, I would have paid for that.
And it's one of these things that on their social media, they use their social media to build up some of these storylines.
Yeah.
Like after this took place, they then showed that WTF ends up going after Kojima, and they take his brand new belt.
Yeah.
So they're threatening to, we're going to melt this down. So that's another storyline of going in of the champion doesn't have his belt, and we'll see what happens. Well, what happens at the next pay-per-view? What happens? There's 2 or 3 steps that they're going ahead, that they're already putting in your mind. Hey, don't forget in just under 2 months, we've got Azteca. We've got Azteca Underground in Chicago.
Yep.
But then they're also going to be down in Tampa. So we'll see what happens when they're down in Tampa. So it's one of these things of they're telling stories, they're pushing everything ahead, and truly, in my opinion, this is how you do things.
Yeah.
This is how you tell stories. This is how, I mean, I myself enjoy this much better than AEW. There's wrestlers in AEW I like, and if I know they have a match, I make sure my DVD is there and I can fast forward. Whenever I see like a Samoa Joe, I've loved Samoa Joe since his TNA days. And then when I realized, oh, Samoa Joe, ROH, okay, when I went back and watched all of that, it's just amazing. Every place that Samoa Joe has gone, he's left a thumbprint. So it's one of these things of just enjoy what you enjoy and just pass on it if you don't like it. But I'm sure you'll like at least 50 to 75% of what you see on any MLW show.
Yeah. They hit on all cylinders. They're, like you said, there's something for everybody, and even the stuff that you may not naturally care for, they have a way of making you want to sit there and see how it's going to pan out.
Yeah.
So it just, they do a great job all the way around. Let's see here. We're going to go over to this past Sunday's episode of United Wrestling Network. And the show started out with Pretty Peter Avalon coming out. He addressed the fans and told them that while he lost the world title match, it lit a fire under him, and he knows that he can hang with the best of the best. So he's starting the day one challenge, being as he was the first contestant on UWN programming. First match was him and Colt Boom Boom Cabana. So for his day one challenge, his first opponent is Matt Vandergrift. This was my first time seeing Vandergrift, but from what I saw, I liked him. He's solid. They put on a good technical match. Both men had to dig deep into their skill set in their attempt to secure a victory. In the end, Avalon had just a little bit more as he hit step up Inseguri to set up the Martinis, which is the double knees to the back, driving Vandergrift face first into the mat. Got that 3 count. Solid match overall. Like I said, good technical bout. This was the first time these two had faced each other. And a good debut for Vandergrift. We then went to a backstage promo with Johnny LaQuasto and Danny Limelight. Johnny's telling Danny that Tito is upset and will probably be the first in line for his number one contender shot, while Slice Boogie has been told to stay home for the time being due to tensions running high all the way around. Danny is upset that with Tito being told to stay home, he can't work on fixing the bodega. And then Jack Banning walks in and asks Danny why not say how long you've been champion, minutes and seconds. Why does he have to always brag about it instead of just defending it? This was a good little setup for something in the future between Banning and Limelight. We were talking backstage before the show, and I would really like to see this match. We've got some stuffs that Jack Banning has a match later on tonight. So then we go to a tag match with technical difficulties versus CJ Tino and Leo Canedo. Not a long match, but a good match. Textbook tag team action with technical difficulties crossing over from Derby City as CJ and Leo making their UWN debut. Technical difficulties, one with the power outage. I think there was one tag?
Yep.
One tag between each team. And they started out with the smaller guys and tagged into the bigger guys, and then boom, it was done. This was a really solid outing for both teams. Technical difficulties picked up the win, but I think it's pretty safe to say that we're going to see more out of Tino and Canedo moving forward. And I think that this isn't indicative of to how they usually compete. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they have in store for these two moving forward.
Yeah.
And with technical difficulties coming out to California from Louisville, that's speaking highly of what Dave thinks of them, I think, and the rest of the crew, because and whenever they were popping up in Derby City, I was impressed by them there too. They're a formidable tag team, and I look for them to be chasing that UWN gold before too long. What do you think?
Well, it's one of those things that, as a quote unquote territory of the United Wrestling Network, I think it's good that they're having talent bounce back and forth, whether it be from Memphis, Derby City, or now Ironheart up in Minnesota. So it's one of those things that if they can either do this, not all territories need to have weekly television, that if they could do a 30-minute highlight show of, hey, here's some matches from around the UWN, have a 7 to 10 minute match from each of the quote unquote territories, or some promos, basically do like back in the day what WWF used to do, where they had the control center.
Yeah.
That you do something like that. But it's one of these things that Dave bringing in some of these wrestlers, the wrestlers looked good, even in a loss. So it's you bring in all these wrestlers and you show them in these different territories, all it's going to do is raise their stock. So, I mean, I'm liking what I'm seeing, but it's one of those things of doing either monthly tapings or even every 6 weeks. That's a lot to put on your plate. So I don't know what Dave has in store. I like what the product has been. I like what it is currently, but we'll see. It's just maybe having any matches, share them amongst all the territories.
Yeah.
That maybe highlight to make a 30-minute or 45-minute show even longer. Hey, if you're enjoying this show from Championship Wrestling here in Hollywood, here's what's happening in Derby City over in Louisville. And you have maybe a 2 or 3 minute rundown from one of their announcers, and they show some clips. But I'm liking what I'm seeing now, and just bringing in other talent that is under the umbrella. That's smart booking, because you get people used to what you're seeing. And if I watch Championship Wrestling and I don't watch Derby, I may want to check out Derby and see, hey, who are these technical difficulty guys?
Yeah.
So it's a win-win for everybody, in my opinion.
I like what Matthew Underwood says. You can run a control room style show compiled of 2 matches, 1 film promo, and then the rest social media promos. And you could do that in 30 minutes. You could have that done in 30 minutes with no problems. Two solid 10-minute matches, a good 3 to 5 minute promo, and then fill in the rest of the time with the social media promos. That I like that idea a lot, Matthew.
I mean, whether it be that or upcoming events that they promote, hey, upcoming tapings here in California, upcoming tapings in Memphis.
Yeah.
Whatever. It's one of these things that use it to your advantage. I'll sit through something if it's good, if it piques my interest. Especially if it's only a 30 or 45 minute show. Cool. I'm down with that.
And Cameron Gates, or we get video packages from the Lone Stranger and Buck Skinner and Cameron Gates. I tell you that Buck Skinner, Daniel turned us on to him whenever he sat down with us a couple weeks back.
Yep.
And if you haven't seen that, if you haven't watched that interview, it's available on the Alliance Blog YouTube channel. Alliance Blog as well. Let's see here. Skinner, he said he doesn't care if you're here, or here. He'll come at you, but nobody's here because he's already there, and he can see that there's nobody in sight. So, that promo just blew me away. This guy's got money written all over him. Amazing talker, just a battering ram of a man in the ring. So I'm excited to see what he's gonna do. And then Cameron Gates, that was a decent promo from Cameron Gates as well. Mm-hmm. He needs a little bit more work, but it wasn't bad. And then we got a recap of the face-off between Bad Dude Tito and Danny Limelight from the end of the show last week. And then a video package from the Mighty Zaddies. Tito's ready to go. Yep. I honestly think that Dave could throw him in the ring and say you're defending the tag titles and you're doing your number one contenders shot, and just you have to fight the tag champions and Danny Limelight. I think there's a possibility he'd retain and gain a belt with just how worked up he is right now, man. That's a big man to have upset at you.
He's doing everything right.
Yeah.
And it's one of these things that it doesn't have to be good versus bad. It doesn't have to be, hey, we're friends, but we're going to battle each other, and then on the other side, we're still friends. This is just 2 guys that need to wrestle, that they're building it correctly. And I applaud Dave, Mr. Marquez, and Daniel. You guys are doing it right.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're telling a story, but you're letting it breathe.
Yeah.
We got to do this. No, let it breathe. Because then when somebody wins or somebody loses, it means even more.
Yep. You wouldn't take a $800 bottle of wine and just pop the cork on it and just start chugging from the bottle.
Yep.
You would take that bottle of wine, you would pop that cork out, you would pour that delicately into a nice glass, and then you'd swirl it around and you'd let it breathe. And then you'd take a sip, and you wouldn't even drink that sip yet. You'd spit that one out. You know, so it like you said, they're doing it right, man.
Yeah.
They're doing it right. After that, we get a match between Savannah Stone and Tania. And man, Savannah Stone is in the best shape of her career.
Yep.
She took full advantage of the downtime that UWN had, and it shows this was pretty much a straight up mauling on Tania by Savannah. Stone has her mind set on domination of the world of the women's division as we get closer to crowning a women's champion. For a brief moment, it looked like Tania was starting to get the upper hand, but just for a moment. Then she was pinned. Could Savannah Stone be the first UWN women's champion, Dave?
I mean, just by watching her wrestle and her change in attitude, that she's just in there, that wrestling is a business, and she's there to conduct business in as quick a manner as possible.
Yeah.
So it's one of these things of, I could see her holding the belt, or her chasing the belt. That if someone else, if they decide to do quote unquote baby face, it's always good to have someone that can make that baby face even more of a baby face.
Yeah, yeah. And
that it's just by little things that she'll put a move on and look at the camera and do a little smirk. Okay, she knows what she's doing. So it's
if anybody could turn a baby face just diabetically sweet baby face, it would be Savannah Stone.
Yep.
Like she's another one that's just doing everything right. You know.
Yeah, and they don't need to have a huge amount of women on their roster.
No.
If they have 3 or 4, as long as they can plug them into different feuds, make the championship mean something.
Yeah.
That
and with them having Derby City and Ironheart Pro to pull from, like you said, they only need 3 to maybe 5 right there in California on that roster, and just
switch them around.
Cycle them around. You know, keeps it fresh, and yeah, that's the way to go with it. After that, we get a backstage segment with Danny Limelight and Papo Esco. Danny tells Papo that Johnny told Slice to stay home, and Papo says he hasn't talked to Slice. Then he goes on to say that he had the TV title locked down and it was gone in a snap. He doesn't know where he's at, but he wants the TV, the heritage, and he stops just short of saying the world and finishes it with, "It ain't all good, Poppy. Nothing right now is good," and then walks away. Danny talked about wanting to fix the bodega, and I'm unfortunately, I see the city of New York building code inspector coming in and putting a condemn notice on that door, bro.
Yep. Shut them down. It's strengthen numbers, but that doesn't always work.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to follow your own way. It's cool if you have quote unquote friends in the business or somebody to watch your back, but I think it's time before they implode on each other that maybe they just have a meeting of the minds and go, okay, hey, we'll always be the bodega, but right now we each have separate things that we need to take care of. And we need to take care of that by ourselves.
Yeah. Then we go to the main event of the evening, or afternoon, actually. That's the TV title match between Jack Banning, our TV champion, and Zicky Dice. When the match went, right before the match started, Banning came in, got into the ring, and then as he's holding up the title, he walks over to Zicky and he holds it in his face. And for a split second, I thought that that's all he was going to do was just hold it right in his face. And then he just got closer and closer, and then shoved it in his face, and then like tried to shove it through his face.
Yeah.
We're seeing a more aggressive, if that's possible, side of Jack Banning. Which, side note, Jack Banning is also the name of Robin Williams' son's character in the movie Hook.
Oh, wow.
Is Jack Banning a lost boy? But this match was amazing. This was my match of the week. It hit on all cylinders. We were talking about Zicky backstage, and while his character can tend to push the boundaries of what I care for in a wrestler, even when they're going heel, at the end of the day, the man is a superb wrestler in ring.
Yeah.
He has the technical chops. The talks that he had last week, where he sat down in the little vignettes that he did, where he was talking about his accomplishments in freestyle and Roman Greco and Sambo, all of those are legit. The man is a legit shooter at the end of the day. He comes out and, for lack of a better term, plays the court jester and the class clown, but is probably one of the most dangerous people in the room when push comes to shove in most instances. Sambo takes Greco-Roman and freestyle wrestling, completely flips it on its head, slaps it on its ass, and then shows it what a real man is, essentially. Sambo is not for the lighthearted or the weak-willed. During the match, Honest John came out. It's obvious that Honest John is having separation issues. His time in the institution did not do anything to fix any of those issues. And while he didn't get directly involved in the match, he did draw just enough attention away from Jack Banning that it ended up costing Jack the TV title. This will be Zicky's second television title in a major company, and I say major because to me, United Wrestling Network does it better than anyone else.
Yeah.
And at the time that he held the TV title in the NWA was doing it damn well, and the NWA is still a major company. They're the longest running company in the United States, so they're major companies to me. They're way above the AEWs and the WWEs to me. Moving forward, I can see Jack Banning. They're definitely building towards him going after the world title.
Yeah.
When we were talking before the show, I don't see him getting that just yet. I could be completely wrong about that. I don't see him getting that just yet, but I definitely see him going after that national title. Right now, Kevin Martinson is rehabbing, I believe, should be back fairly soon. I'm not sure the exact timeline yet, but when he does come back, what a better way for, he's not going to lose anything if he comes back and his first challenger is Jack Banning and Jack Banning takes the title off of him.
Yeah.
It that can all be chalked up to ring rust, and then have a couple good outings, and he's right back in title hunt. This time for the world title, and I would give all my fingers and thumbs and toes to see Danny Limelight and Kevin Martinson mix it up again. We saw it, I want to say about a year ago. We saw it, and that was a hell of a match. So I'm excited for everything that the UWN is doing right now. Like you said, they're doing everything right. They're giving stuff the proper time. They're giving their talent the proper settings and the right direction. Everything that, excuse me, everything that they have going on right now is leading to the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever that next thing may be, it's going to continue to captivate me. I have no doubts about this. With the UWN, David Marquez is a student of this business and is doing everything right. I truly hope that with the content that they're putting out now, that this leads to a CW type deal for them that they were that close to getting. And things happen in business all the time. Deals fall through. These things happen. So I'll close with this. Like I say every week, if you're not watching the UWN, you are missing one of the best wrestling products that's available for free right now. Mm-hmm. Even if they had a subscription thing, I would pay for that every month. But if you're not watching the UWN, me and you got problems. And you don't want problems with me. I have no fucking teeth. I will fuck you up. But that was my UWN report. I again, like I said, if you got to check it out. You got to sit down. You got to watch it. It's the best thing going right now. It truly is. Now we will move from this to what I've been waiting for since I found out that this is what he's going to be talking about in the fantasy booking. We have I Respect You Booker Man with Dave Scooby. And right now he is about to talk about the WWE opening the forbidden door, as it's been coined by others, and partnering up with ECW of all people, of all groups, for their Bloodsport event. So I'm going to run this little video for a quick second, and then we will hand it over to you, Dave.
All right. Well, thank you, Jeremy. Like you said, there's going to be at least one right now that we know of. WWE is having Shayna Baszler work Bloodsport. She's a former and we found out earlier that she will be fighting Masha Slamovich from TNA. Now, this is going. I don't know if it's making history, but you don't see WWE talent wrestling outside of the WWE. Now,
No.
I've heard that this is a Triple H thing, that he and Josh, they may not be friends, but they're friendly. They've talked. So there's word that there may be one, if not a few more people that are not involved in WrestleMania itself, or may have a minor part in WrestleMania, but not a big match, that are going to be allowed to wrestle for Bloodsport. Now, let's see. Game Changer Wrestling, it's part of the collective, the Bloodsport. They announced that Shayna Baszler will be taking on Masha Slamovich. It marks the first time that there's been a collaboration between WWE and GCW. Bloodsport has featured notable names in the past, including John Moxley, Eddie Kingston, Gunther, even Dan Severn, Royce Isaacs, who used to be in the NWA, also Allison Kay wrestled the last couple years. Now, what other wrestlers could we see possibly join Bloodsport that are under contract to the WWE? Well, I'm not sure. I watch WWE as a background event. I don't sit and take everything in. If there's something happening and I read about it or hear about it and it's making news, I'd love it. I would love to see some of these wrestlers, if they're not getting a chance at WrestleMania matches. WrestleMania is 2 days. Let them wrestle wherever. If you've made your way to the door and opened the door for Bloodsport, give a couple of these other wrestlers a chance. I mean, Chad Gable, he's a former college and Olympic wrestler. The guy knows how to grapple. If you're unfamiliar with what Bloodsport is basically mixed martial arts and catch wrestling.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it is predetermined, but it is more athletic in nature than regular wrestling, regular pro wrestling.
Yeah.
So it's one of these things of, you have Chad Gable there. Also, Gable Stevenson, Olympic gold medalist. He hasn't wrestled at all. This would make a very quick way to make an impression and make an impact. That this is like bringing in a Kurt Angle and just going, boom, tag, you're it. The guy knows how to wrestle.
Yep.
And as long as he can do the quote unquote job of sports entertainment / pro wrestling and not injure anyone. Because it's one of those things that there's been wrestlers that do shoot matches. And then there's wrestlers that do worked matches.
Yeah.
When you're a regular either collegiate wrestler or Olympic wrestler, the hardest thing that they've said is to learn how to wrestle and not go to hurt your opponent.
Yeah.
To make it look real without injuring someone. So it's one of those things of, I'm not really sure what would happen if you brought Stevenson in, but like I said, it'd be a great way to make an impact.
Mm-hmm.
And if they get film of this happening, it's a win-win for everybody involved. Also, a couple weeks ago when all the McMahon stuff went down and I guess the bad touch, I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
Brock Lesnar just all of a sudden disappeared, was no longer involved with anything.
Yep.
Then he pops back up. Well, if they're not going to use him on WrestleMania, use him at Bloodsport. He doesn't even have to have an opponent. Just have him show up. He's a former collegiate wrestler, former champion, former MMA wrestler. Have him just go in and just go apeshit. Have him just jump in and involve himself in a match that if there's no way for them to decide who wins in a certain match, have him just go in and decimate both of the wrestlers. That way they don't look bad, and he just goes in and he goes, who wants me? Make it a year-long thing of people challenging Brock Lesnar for next year in Minnesota, where he went to college.
Oh, shit.
Think long-term, 1 year.
Damn.
It could happen. Who knows? Okay, now you can also look. Bloodsport has had AEW wrestlers involved as well. John Moxley, namely. You could have Jake Hager. He's done MMA. He does wrestling. Josh Woods, college wrestler.
Yeah.
Catch wrestler. Marina Shafir. She's done MMA. She's also just a badass.
She's former WWE NXT as well.
Yep. She's wrestled, and it's one of these things of she doesn't wrestle bad, but she's had a hard time converting her style into a pro wrestling style.
Yeah.
So
she was, if I remember right, she was paired up with Jessamine Duke and Shayna Baszler in NXT.
Yep.
Yeah. She's a lot better as a tag team than solo. Not to knock her or anything, but she works better in a tag than solo.
So she's with AEW. If we could see her there. Also, Johnny TV, Johnny Morrison, Hennigan, whatever his name is. He's
Nitro, Thunder.
He's Johnny Bloodsport. He's done it before. He's doing it again this year.
Okay.
So it's one of those things that this is one of those events that you're having everybody involved in. So it's one of these things of who knows. I mean, TNA, Speedball Mike Bailey, he's done Bloodsport in the past. Maybe bring him in. What about Kratos? He's done it in the past. Bring him in. MLW, also New Japan and Championship Wrestling. Bad Dude Tito, he's done it before. Do it again. Bring him in.
Fuck.
You have Royce Isaac.
Lord.
I mean, MLW, Janai Kai, she's done it before. It's one of these things of blur the lines. Get all these different people from all these different organizations and just make this happen. Make this must-watch wrestling, catch wrestling, blood sport, whatever you want to call it. It's pro wrestling with an edge.
Yeah. And
I
Kai
can watch
terrifies me.
I can watch it and I'm like, if it's not predetermined, I have a very hard time figuring out that it is predetermined. They make it so realistic. And this is one of those things that I think every wrestler that does pro wrestling should do something to this event, like this event, or go into a MMA fighting school and learn. It's one of those things that you need to learn how to flip the switch, go from real to making it look real. That it can only help you. Whereas some wrestlers have a hard time, they're so used to the real full contact that when they try to wrestle, it looks bad because they're pulling punches. They're afraid that they will actually hurt somebody.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this is one of those things of, it's sold out. It's been sold out for who knows how long. I'm actually going to spend my money and watch it. I'm going to buy this event.
Okay.
So it's one of those things that it has me piqued. It has my interest piqued in who else can show up. But I'm just so interested in Triple H actually wanting to work with somebody else.
Right. Now I saw, and I'm looking on their Twitter page right now, because I don't remember if it was from the GCW account or if someone just put it together. But another WWE talent that I saw that they put on and the only one that I'm seeing at the moment is Shayna Baszler, so I think that may have been a fan made one. But I saw one where somebody put Dominic Mysterio on the Bloodsport poster. Me and
he would get major heat.
It would, but imagine if he came out there and he actually whipped ass.
Yeah.
You know, and showed a completely different side of him. Me and a guy that I work with were talking, Jose, and he follows WWE primarily, but he ventures out here and there. But I brought up the Dominic Mysterio thing to him, and he said, "Really though?" And I told him, you got to think about it though. For the entire time that he's been alive, Ray's been set. Ray was already at that. I've got money, so who's to say that Dom didn't get brought up in judo or some sort of martial art that just doesn't get talked about because it's not prevalent at the moment. This could be a character shift moment for him if that actually happened. So I'm not seeing it on GCW's official Twitter page. So I'm thinking that it was a fan made thing, but it had me intrigued, and that piqued my interest whenever I saw it. I wish I would have bookmarked it at the very least, but I didn't. But that would be an interesting one, I think.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That could, like I said, that could be a complete character shift for him. That could move him away from eventually the Judgment Day, and bump him into a face role down the road. You know, but I'm debating it. I haven't committed fully yet to if I'm going to pick it up, but I'm with what I know about it and who's shown up before. And with WWE now getting in the mix with it, I'm interested. GCW is not necessarily my favorite cup of tea, but at the end of the day, it's still wrestling, and I'm a mark for wrestling. So
Yeah.
there's a good possibility I'll probably pick it up too.
Well, it's one of these things of I think GCW gets I'm not going to say a bad rap, but they're similar to ECW in that people think it's just trash wrestling.
Yeah.
They have a few people that wrestle different styles, but they've mixed it up. And it's one of those things. I mean, by any means, it's not your dad's wrestling.
No.
And they don't want to go for that. But it's one of these things of wrestling has changed, and you either change or you get left behind.
Yeah. Yeah. I think if I was to go to a GCW show, it would definitely have to be one where Nick Gage isn't on the card.
Yeah.
That I think, and I don't want to knock the guy because that's his skill.
Yeah.
You know, we all have something that we're spectacular at. He's spectacular at bleeding.
Yep.
I mean, I don't think you can put that on a resume, but he's made a living off of it. But that's not. That's why I haven't really given GCW a full blown chance, is because of that whole thing. As Cornette calls it, the bank addicted drug robber. You know, I don't want to see someone, because at the end of the day, I'm a smart mark. You know, I know that this is all predetermined. So the idea of someone just going in there and willfully mutilating themselves the way that he does, I feel bad for the guy. You know, I just want him to get the help that he needs to work through whatever traumas he faced in life.
Well, all I think about is times have changed, and with this blood sport, what they do, could you imagine back in the day if they did a ring that had no ring posts and no ropes, and you had, I don't know, maybe Harley in there going against somebody? Now, Harley as a wrestler was just no nonsense, but he also bar fights by any means necessary. So it's one of those things of, I would love to fantasy book maybe a battle royal blood sport and have maybe 10 wrestlers from the past. I think I may do that next week.
That's what I was just getting ready to say. That would be a great one for next week.
All I'm seeing, I mean, you have some of these guys that they would literally hurt you if they didn't like you.
Yeah.
That they would stretch you. I mean, imagine Luthez in a match like that.
I could see Luthez is a great example. I could see a Luthez just getting you down on that mat and then getting one arm wrapped around and just getting that fish hook in on both sides and just wrenching back and just stretching you until you're done. That would be amazing. Yeah.
I think I'll do that. I mean, if anybody in the chat, just hit me up at Dave Scooby. Give me some of your wrestlers that you like from the past. I mean, end up doing something like that. I mean, that would be great. I could just see some of these old school guys, and I mean, it's just it's what wrestling used to be. But I mean, I myself would be afraid to get in the ring with some of these wrestlers, knowing that they do the catch style and can injure you. Granted, anybody can be injured getting in a ring, but in regular wrestling, you do your best to work with, interact with the other wrestler and not injure them. Whereas this is, wow, you're working to make things look real, and I'm like, okay, we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well, Dave, I thank you for that, and I look forward to next week. Let's see here. Matthew Underwood had posted up that WWE should have Killer Cross or Karrion Cross in there. He's done it before. I'd like to see that. I would.
Yeah.
But that is going to do it for us today. We thank you all for joining us. And tomorrow, as the banner says, join us at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific for the Alliance Guys podcast with J. Cal, DKM, and Jaden. And then every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, J. Cal does the pre-party or the post-party, the after-party, the during party.
Yep.
He talks about NWA Power for Tuesday. The Hour of Power, that's too sweet to be sour. And then you can follow us on Twitter at TOAG live stream. That's the other Alliance Guys live stream on X. Make sure to follow the Alliance Wrestling at the Alliance blog on all the social media platforms.
Yep.
Dave, where can they find you at?
Gooby, just like the dog, on Twitter or X or whatever it is now. Also on Instagram and over on TikTok, Dave Scooby, followed by the number 1.
You can find me over on Twitter at HJWOTS and on Threads and Blue Sky, which I need to get more accustomed with using and utilizing them more. You can find me at Championship Wrestling Jeremy. Again, we thank you all for joining us this week, and we shall see you at the matches.